Talk Live. We are back. We are live. We are live here in Toronto at the studio. Yes, live on IG and YouTube. We are back and we are live. Oh, running about a few minutes late, but still, we are ready to go. We are ready to go. I had a few technical issues yesterday, but we worked out those kinks. We worked them out. And here we are tonight. And I hope you're well. Tonight on Talk Live. As the Christmas season is in full swing, I hope you've at least started your shopping right now. We are in December. It is the near the winter equinox. Yes, indeed. The Santa Claus parades around the world are soon to be upon us. And December 25th is now again only a couple weeks away. Can you believe it? Yes, indeed. Before it was on Valentine's Day, and before that, and after that, it was summer, and after that, it was, Halloween, and here we are now at Christmas. But thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Sponsored by Duntalk, DUNTALK.com. Like, subscribe, comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Indeed, I don't have any Gun Talk gear on tonight. I just said, you know what, I had to hurry home from work. It was a long day today. After, as you know, year end is year end, and that's when the real work really is put in to make yourself look good in wherever you are. Anyway, so the fourth quarter is the fourth quarter. But again, I hope you enjoyed your day, and I hope that everything is going well for you. But let's get to it. Tonight we're going to watch a video from a lawyer, James Sexton. Now this is a highly viral video, an hour long, and it's a divorce lawyer's rather frank views of love, relationships, and marriage. And quite simply, there's a lot of home truths to be spun out of this. And you realize that from the jump that this is not for the faint of heart. This is not for the truly romantic. This is not for those who believe in fairy tales. No, he lays it out real. He lays it out raw, and you deserve to see it here tonight on Talk Live. And we're going to comment to it from time to time. I got all the times here queued up. So let's get into it tonight. And I hope you are well wherever you are in your neck of the woods, as always. And tomorrow night I got to be at a Christmas party. So let's get it in tonight, because tomorrow is going to be very, very busy. Actually, the whole weekend is going to be very busy, because I will be back in England again. Shout out to my cousin who is getting married as of next week to his longtime sweetheart in the Cotswolds. And we're gonna do it up live out there, and it's gonna be a great occasion. But it's gonna be my second time in England, and I don't usually do that. I haven't done that since my educative years, where I used to go in and out of England on the regular. But it should be a fun experience nonetheless. But again, thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live, and with what I have in the background there, I have in the background. The NBA tonight. The play-in tournament is on tonight, the semifinals. So it should be. It is. I had that playing in the background, but still focus on you. Still focus on you, live on IG and YouTube. Let's get into it. Let's get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. James Sexton, divorce attorney of rather high esteem. He's giving us the real deal when it comes to love and marriage. He is not holding back. He is not mincing any words. He's telling you the real deal on what marriage is, because he used to be married himself until he divorced a few years back. But again, thank you very much for joining me at Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Let's get into it. The video by Soft White Underbelly. Subscribe to Soft White Underbelly. He's doing wonderful things in these YouTube streets. He's up to 3 million subscribers. He's got some riveting interviews with some, quite insightful and impactful individuals there on his channel, Soft White Underbelly. So do go and subscribe to Soft White Underbelly. And his video with James Sexton, I think, is reached 4 million views. So if you have not had a look at it for yourself, please do. It is an eye opener. And anyone who's thinking of going down the aisle, you need to see this. You really do need to see this, because this is a frank look at what is one of the most hallowed institutions worldwide, that we know of. So again, let's get into it here with James Sexton. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Talk Live. Let's go.
Attractive woman. And when I say attractive, I don't just mean attractive. I mean even just sexually confident. I mean, what an unbelievably lucrative career that is. Like, I do divorces for people that, you know, a woman walks out with $200-300 million. He was an analyst at Goldman Sachs who built a hedge fund and then sold it and then used his trading algorithm to build it up to $500 million. She was hot and slept with him for a while and then stopped and started sleeping with other people and playing tennis and having Botox. And she's going to get half. Like, that's fucking incredible. Like, do you know what he had to do to get that? And what she had to, I'll fuck that guy for $200 million. Are you kidding me? Like, that's insane. That's incredible. Like, and God bless. I mean, I'm not saying that this is the rules of the game, you know, but you can't argue that that's not easier than going to Harvard.
No, for sure. But then the payoff.
Stop that there for a second. James comes out swinging, literally swinging, giving us a scenario of what divorces are these days, where a man who's built up his fortune through hard work, through due diligence, and again, this goes both ways. Again, this could be a woman as well, because we live in a day and age where, in this modern age, where women can be breadwinners at the end of the day, and a lot of men do take advantage of breadwinners. But for the most part, this is a female. This is a male breadwinner, female. Well, lucky one scenario where the man has indeed paid his dues, created a fortune for himself, and again, like he said, she was hot, and she slept with him for a certain amount of time. He didn't have the presence of protecting himself, and at the end of the day, she takes half. Now, we had already gone through this on Talk Talk Live with Dr. Dre, because Dr. Dre went through the same sort of scenario. He built up Beats by Dre. He built up his record catalog. He built up himself to be one of the iconic people in music. She was relatively hot. She was a lawyer at one time, but she was not going to have the earnings potential of a Dr. Dre. She nearly took half, people. And she tried every trick in the book. She was a former lawyer. She tried every trick in the book to throw out that prenuptial agreement that she signed of her own volition. Lucky for him, it stood up in court, and she was given a fraction of what she could have had, which was half. And that's indeed the reason why a lot of men don't want to be involved with that marriage anymore, in marriage and wedded bliss anymore, because simply put, you can spend your whole life working towards a goal, and it can be gone within a matter of weeks. It's it's a very, very untrustworthy thing, and you have to protect yourself. And not a lot of people believe in the institution of marriage simply because of this bad deal, this unilaterally bad deal.
Basketball Live, and today we are talking about the Toronto Raptors.
Oh wow! Hold on just a second. I have an interruption in the background. I cannot believe it. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, there you go. All right, Mr. Pence there. Thank you so much. Wow, that was interesting. There we go. Let me get back to it. There we go. New phone and all, people. New phone and all. I'm sorry about that. Sorry for that interruption there. Shout out to Pence Basketball. I usually listen to Pence Basketball. It's very, very good analytical mind when it comes to that sort of thing. And I think it's a born genius, Mr. Pence. But anyways, getting back to it. Sorry about that. What we have to consider here is why men are running away from marriage, why people, certain people of a certain income strata are running away from marriage, because it is seen as a bad deal, because it is seen as a contract that is unfavorable to one party and favorable to another. As I said to you before, you'll never see a feminist, womanist. Sorry about that. You will never see a feminist, womanist protest outside of a family court. Why? Because it's counterproductive. It's simply counterproductive, especially when the law is on your side, especially when it comes to marriage and divorce, as is seen here, a perfect scenario. So he comes straight out and says, you know what? This is not an institution that many people, including men, believe in. Because women have it made through marriage. Their lives are set through marriage. Especially if you are one that is a Jenny come lately and is just taking advantage of a few years of sex and companionship. So a lot of people are very untrustworthy of these things, and certain steps have to be put in place in order to protect yourself and not lose your shirt. Let's continue.
The trade-off for that is that when they hit a certain age, the value decreases.
Right. Any stock, if you hold it too long, it's going to go down. So play the stock the right way. I mean, and that's what I think. If we were a little more honest about the nature of male-female coupling, I mean, right now we can't even establish what is gender. We can't establish any of that anymore. So divorce is becoming incredibly hilarious and fraught.
Well, to me, what is, like, sometimes you have to stand back and look at things to get the real perspective on what it is.
Sure.
And sometimes you look back at marriage. So when was it invented? Like 2000 BC, roughly. And the life expectancy of humans back then was 18 years old.
Yeah.
And marriage was created for land ownership and things like that.
Yeah.
And if you're going to die in your early 20s or whatever, then getting married at 16, 18 makes sense.
Well, I think there's a distinction that has to be made between pair bonds and marriage, right? Marriage is a government concept. Marriage is a contract. Marriage is a legal status. Pair bonds, right? Two people go in it together, saying, hey, there's 7.3 billion people in the world, and the two of us, we're gonna lock up together, and we're gonna try to hold hands and get through this thing.
Until we're 80 years old.
Well, until whatever, I mean, what's interesting is, first of all marriages end. They end in death or divorce, but they all end. Like, every marriage ends. So it's one of the only things that you go, wow, I really hope this ends in us dying. Most things, you that's not the desired outcome. But in marriage, you hope marriage will end in death. You hope that you will be together until one or both of you die. But all marriages end.
But
so
as a guy, as a provider, if you knew it was going to end and you were going to have to give away half your money, you might think twice about doing it.
Well, I think that's what makes being a divorce lawyer interesting, is that it's a lot of what a court has to do is disregard what happened in the marriage, because the truth is at the bottom of a bottomless pit. Like, you're never going to get there. Yeah, well, he's fucking his secretary. Right, because you were not sleeping with me anymore. I have a client whose wife acknowledges she didn't sleep with him for 6 years. What did you think was going on if you didn't sleep with him for 6 years? So, delegate. You've delegated that responsibility. If you don't want to have sex with him, that's okay. No one should force you to have sex with this person. Let him go have sex with someone else. You don't want to do the laundry, hire someone to do the laundry. If you don't want to
A very, very good point raised by Mr. Sexton, in that it's really a it's a forgotten premise of marriage and divorce, and with the emphasis on divorce, is the fact that a man was forced into divorce by a woman's conduct, and that being, she never gave any sort of sexual intercourse, sexual contact. She never had any sexual contact with him. So basically, fundamentally, she vicariously, let me see, I'm trying to find the word. Constructively, there he is. She constructively asked for the idea for the act of sex to be contracted out, to be given to someone else. And when he acted upon that deal, because she wasn't going to, as he said, she wasn't going to give him any sex for, she hadn't given him any sex for 3 years. As a result of that, he going out and seeking pastures new, she turns around and sues it. She turns around and asks for a divorce. So basically, he was constructively asked to leave the relationship, and he's punished for it financially. That is not fair. That's what a lot of men go through these days, is that the wife doesn't want to touch them, doesn't want to be around them, doesn't want to be with them. And as a result, he's constructively asked to move on, and as a result, he is punished for his activities because love don't live there anymore. Because the shutters are closed, the signs on the door, and is a fait accompli. The marriage is constructively dismissed. It's basically over. But the man is left to pay the price because of a woman's prerogative to have sex when she wants. She doesn't see it as an obligation in a relationship, in a marriage, to have sex with your husband, which indeed it is. Let it be known, ladies. Sex with your man is pretty much standard operating procedure in a marriage. You withhold that, you're literally casting a marriage to the four winds. You're literally doing it. You're literally constructively, and this is a legal term, you're constructively dissolving a marriage in and of itself. Because a man has needs, he doesn't get those needs fulfilled, he's going to find it elsewhere. And if he finds it elsewhere, you can't turn around and say, hey, gotcha. Yes, I didn't give you sex, but you should have not taken any from anywhere else. No, you can't do that. That's unfair. And the court has to recognize that quite simply. And a lot of courts don't. They just want somebody to pay the alimony. They don't want somebody on the public dole, on the teat of public family services. So a man is left to pick up the pieces, even though he never created the pieces in the first place. Let's continue.
Your own lawn, hire someone to mow the lawn, delegate that responsibility. And this guy wasn't even sleeping around. He was going to those hand job places, where you get a massage and you get a hand. Like, the most pathetic thing in the world, the most innocuous thing in the world. He didn't have a girlfriend. There was no love involved. He was getting jacked off for $50. Like, that's sad. Like, I mean, first of all, hand jobs, like, that's an outdated technology. That's like a Betamax. Like, who even does that anymore? But he was doing this, and he just thought, okay, that's fine. She had the indignation to say, he shouldn't be a custodial parent. He's a terrible person because he's doing this. And it was like, wait, how is that much different than going to a strip club? How is that much more different? Because we just, he was like, well, should I deny it? And I was like, is it true? And he's like, well, yeah. I said, no, we should own it. Let's go in and say, yeah, you know what? Yeah, it's pathetic. It's really pathetic. My wife didn't sleep with me for 6 years, and I'm human, and I wanted to have sex still. I didn't want to blow up my life. I didn't want to screw up my kids and have my kids have divorced parents. So I thought, all right, she's clearly not interested in me anymore. I'm not going to have a girlfriend and get caught up in all the things where people could get hurt and there's feelings and fatal attraction and stuff. I'm just going to go. It'll be transactional, like going to a strip club or anything else. And is it a little pathetic that I'm a guy who makes $1 million a year in finance and I'm paying someone $50 to jack me off? Yeah, it's kind of pathetic, but you know what? I figured out. But to suggest that means I'm a bad parent, that has nothing to do with my parenting at all, period. So.
And he's right. Nothing to do with you being a parent, nothing to do with being a good provider, nothing with you being a good problem solver, nothing with you being a good procreator, nothing with you being a good protector. Nothing. Nothing at all. A woman will offer this gotcha after she's made a conscious decision, because let's face facts here. When you're at that stage, a woman is checked out. She's basically gone. She's moved on to pastures new. And she's she's monkey branching onto that next relationship. While yours left picking up the pieces and paying for it. And James Sexton's right here. A lot of men now are just saying, literally, as he said, owning it and saying, listen, I was in a sexless relationship for 5, 6, how many odd years? She basically constructively ended this marriage on her own. And I'm left to pay for it? It's unfair. Yes, it is unfair. She basically outsourced any sort of sexual contact whatsoever. So why is he left to pay for it? Absolutely right. Why is he left to pay for her decision? for her temperament, for her frame of mind, whereby she withheld sexual contact for a number of years. Any man worth his salt is going to go out and find something else. But a man should be punished for a decision a woman consciously made. Whether to be vindictive, whether to act out in revenge, or just or something as innocent as religious belief. At the end of the day, a no man signed on for it. If a no man signed on for it, he shouldn't be left to pay for it. Simple as. Let's continue.
And thankfully, the judge agreed with me on that one. But I really do think that the idea, I don't think, I mean, if you break it down fundamentally, 56% of marriages end in divorce. Like, think about, that's the ones that end in divorce. So how many people, what percentage stay together for the kids? Or because they don't want to give away half their shit? Another 10%? That's conservative.
Conservative.
But let's say 20%.
No,
Okay?
that's at least right.
You now have a technology that fails 76% of the time. That's insane. That's insane. That's more likely than not. 76%. If I told you there's a 76% chance when you walk out the door today you're going to get hit in the head with a bowling ball, you would not go out, or you'd wear a helmet for sure. But people just continue to get married. Not only do they continue to get married, there's a presumption that you should get married. And if you don't get married, there's something wrong with you. So if you've got a girlfriend and you've been with her for 5 years, and you say to someone, we're getting married, they go, oh, that's great. You know, they don't go, why? You're happy. Why would you get married? Like, everything's going fine. Why would you put yourself through that? Why would you run that risk? If you say to someone, we've been together 5 years, and we've decided we're not going to get married. We're going to move in together, but we're not going to get married. Ooh, what's wrong? Again, intimacy issues? What's your problem? Meanwhile, 56% end in divorce. It's literally fits the legal definition of negligence. It's a negligent behavior. The way you define negligence in law school is when what you lose by not doing something, okay, is lower than the risk of harm. It's what's called a BPL analysis. So the burden of not doing a thing is lower than the likelihood, the probability of harm. So BPL, so burden, probability, and loss. Marriage is an inherently negligent activity. It's like owning a lion. Like the likelihood of someone getting hurt seriously by this is very, very high. No one ever says it to you. Because why? Because, and I would say something, I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I still get misty-eyed at weddings. Like, I still really, there's something in me that goes like, you know, maybe it'll work out for these two.
You still believe in love?
Sweet. I absolutely believe in love. I think love is wonderful. But love and marriage have very little to do with each other. I don't think there's much of a correlation there. And I think that's where we got off track. Like, I believe in pair bonds. I don't think I can learn everything I need to know about myself from myself. I think having someone around me who sees my blind spots, and that doesn't have to be a romantic partner. That could be a friend. That could be any number of things. But there is something wonderful about romantic connection. We know that. I mean, the other statistic is 56% of marriages end in divorce, but 84% of people who get divorced are remarried within 5 years of their divorce.
Really?
Let's think about it.
Let's think about that. Let's really think about that. More than half of marriages end in divorce. As he said, it's like literally walking outside knowing that a bowling ball is aimed at your head. And the chances of you being hit by that bowling ball at full speed are 50-50. No one's gonna walk outside. No one would take that deal. No one would take that deal. And then its second point was, even though 56% of marriages end in divorce, those who are divorced are 80% more likely to end right back up in a marriage. They want to do it again. We are a very codependent society. Point blank, period. We can't do without each other. Even if the the way we do it will more than likely end up in failure. But we are ready to run back to the institution, time in, time out. Why? He's right. Sometimes we're publicly shamed to do it. You're seen as a weirdo if you aren't married. You're seen as a outcast, a social pariah, if you do not sign on to the institution, and it is an institution. You're seen as an outsider if you do not toe the line. Be a part of the institution. Be part of a losing formula. I mean, it works for some, but for many it doesn't. And James clearly said, why is there some sort of opprobrium? Why is there ridicule of a person who doesn't get into marriage, but for one who goes into a failed institution, there's all the love in the world, no matter how many times you do it. It's simply ironic that that is the case, but it's true. If you're not part of a married couple, something must be wrong with you. And it's been said about me many a time. Something must be wrong with me. I look at Stephen A. over there. He's not married either. People say something's wrong with him, even though he's a multi-millionaire. But something's wrong with him that he didn't take a woman under his wing and have half his money gone within the first 5 years because she had feelings of pastors knew. And she didn't want to be a part of his alleged life. Of my alleged life. That's why men are running away from the institution of marriage. It's because we know the system's rigged and we don't want to be caught. We don't want to get caught. We just don't want to get caught. So we're running scared. But sometimes a girl ropes us in and then that's that. But again, that's the chance we take, right? You know, you risk death by walking outside your door. You risk financial ruin by walking outside your door and getting married. It's true. Let's continue.
So now you've done it and failed and felt the pain of the loss, and within 5 years, 84% are remarried.
So when you fall in love, and you're with a partner who's in love with you,
Sure.
it's like hard to put the brakes on and say, you know what, that's as far as I'm going to go.
Well, I think whoever discovered water, it wasn't a fish. And I think when we're in a thing, we don't see it. And so, I mean, and this is true
No,
of
but
any
there
of us.
must be some endorphins, something's being released in our brains.
Listen, you want to test that theory. The next time you're out with a couple who've been together for a while and it seems like they maybe got in a fight or they're just kind of being, impatient with each other at the table, when you go a group thing. Just say to them, so tell me about how you met. Tell me the story of how you met. And everything on them changes. They go back to that place. And there's this oh yeah, and she was this. Because for that second, you go back to that place. You can go, someone with a horrible divorce, if you could get them to go to that place and talk to you about that time. I would tell you something, when I was a kid, every kid, you have the fantasy of if you were invisible, what would you do? You'd go to the girls' locker room, whatever. I have this fantasy that if I could be invisible, I have about 8 clients that I'd like to sneak into their house and find their wedding album. I know it's in the attic somewhere or something, because I would love to see what it looked like when these people loved each other, because they are weaponized against each other now, and we are trying to kill each other, and we're taking every secret, every intimacy, everything, and we're
at their ugliest.
At their ugliest, at their worst. And there's something in me that just the thought that you guys at some point you were there's 7.3 billion people in the world and you're the one. You're the one I just want to be with and smell and touch and that feeling. We all know that feeling of just the electricity of another person, and I mean, I think I'm a romantic at heart in the sense that I really get it. Like, I really get why we do this. I felt it, I know it, I understand it. But tying that to the technology of marriage to me makes almost no sense whatsoever. And I actually think it's almost antagonistic to that connection with another person, because there's so much expectation that comes with marriage culturally. We've created so much stuff around it. Like when you marry someone, they're supposed to be, at least in the modern Western model, your best friend, best roommate, best co-parent, best travel partner, best roommate, best everything, best activity partner. Like how would one person be all of those things? That's insane. Like if I was interviewing for a job and said, I want you to be the best typist, and I also want you to be best on the phone, and I also want you to be great at that. And I ran down a list of dissimilar things. Like, or if I went to an amazing chef and I said, I know you're a great chef, but can you farm? Like, well, that has to do with food, but they're not the same thing. Like, what are you talking? So I think, why do we put on people this idea, like whoever came up with the word soulmate, really we should be paying, like divorce lawyers should be paying that person dividends. Because
And it's true. James is off to a flyer here, guys, and I hope you caught up and caught into what he's saying here. There are a lot of unrealistic criteria, goals, standards that men and women fall into in the case of a marriage, especially in the modern world. I mean, you cannot live on one sole income in a row like this. You can't. And as it says, modern technology, the likes of Instagram, the likes of Bumble, the likes of Hinge, the likes of all these different dating apps and such, make it impossible for you to stay faithful to a person. Makes it virtually impossible. Makes it so very difficult for you to stay sober and with one person. It is an institution that if we remained in conservative lifestyles and we lived outside of the modern day world today, marriage is a fine institution. But with all these different influences and different temptations out there, no wonder the institution is failing and floundering. No wonder. We are in an age where men and women have lofty expectations of themselves. They have to literally be superhuman to be considered attractive. To be considered the slight bit attractive. You need to have a six-pack, six figures, 6 inches or more, and 6 feet and above. As a man. As a woman, you got to be fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, submissive. Now, I know there's a bit of a trade-off there, but you see what I'm saying. A man's got to earn about $100,000 a year. You see it every single day on TikTok and IG. It is, for most men, unrealistic. Yet, that's the only entrance to marriage. That men, if divorced, would do again and again and again because we'd rather codependent and because we all feel, I think the majority of us feel, that the institution is not flawed, is not dead. And that is, as they say, the problem, is the fact that modern marriage hasn't adapted to modern day relationships. So there has to be some sort of give and take, because right now, I mean, the court system in and of itself is geared towards somebody paying for their mistake in marriage. Be it the man or the woman, but some breadwinners gotta pay. Somebody's got to bite the bullet. And usually it's a man. Usually it's a man. In certain circumstances it's a woman, but usually it's a man. And women realize this. Again, we're looking at solutions later, but thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. Like, subscribe, comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Sponsored by DunTalk, DUNTALK.com. Fall winter line out now. Go look up DunTalk, DUNTALK.com for more details. Let's get into this.
convinced people that if this person isn't meeting every one of your needs, checking all of these boxes, they're not your soulmate. Your soulmate would know exactly what to do, exactly what to say at exactly the right time. I go off on this stuff.
Yeah.
I
what do you think the secret is to keeping a marriage vital, keeping it alive?
I think people get unhappy in marriages the way that people go bankrupt, which is very slowly and then all at once. I think it's very slow and then it just goes off a cliff. So everybody will say, well, we divorced because he was cheating or she was cheating, or we divorced because he had an alcohol issue or a drug issue, which lately we're seeing more like alcohol and drugs is a big thing, especially post-pandemic. There's a tremendous amount of substance abuse stuff that's causing a lot of issues in marriages. And certainly, like, social media has increased the accessibility of adultery and connections to other people and reconnections with people from your past who remind you of a version of yourself that you felt more excited about because you were younger. So it's, it used to be if you like ran into the girl you banged in high school, it was like once every 10 years at a reunion, or if you lived in the same town as you grew up in, you might run into the person at the Walmart. But now it's like on Facebook, you have all these excuses to be able to chit chat with someone, and all these benign entry points, of like, I saw your pictures from vacation. Where did you stay in Miami? And then it becomes, oh yeah, well, you looked great. I mean, boy, you look fantastic in a bikini. And then all of a sudden we're off to the races and we're chatting with each other. So if we were going to invent like an infidelity machine, you couldn't do better than Facebook and Instagram. I mean, that's about as good as it gets.
Wow. Again, social media being the death of modern marriage. Having women so accessible at a moment's notice, at the flick of a wrist, at the booking of a flight, you can be where that girl is these days, within a matter of hours. And then let the games begin. I mean, the amount of commitment once thrown into marriage and the marriage institution would, will outlast you and me. Let's say that. I mean, quite simply, it's marriage is highly problematic. Let's say it's highly problematic. It is increasingly flawed in some way. Very, very much flawed. Yet we're supposed to sit there and take it and move on. Mr. Saxon, please go ahead.
But I genuinely think that the secret to staying happy in a marriage is probably the same secret to maintaining a healthy weight. Don't wait till you get super fat and then try to lose the weight. Don't wait until you get really sick. Like, my sister's a dentist, and she always says, if you have a toothache, there's nothing I can do, really. Like, I can pull the tooth, I can give you a root canal, but like, I can prevent you from getting a toothache. If you just come see me regularly and you just floss and you just brush your teeth, you'll never get a toothache. By the time your tooth hurts, something is already seriously wrong. By the time you're in a divorce lawyer's office, you're fucked. The whole thing's fucked at that point. Like, you'd be better off just, figuring out the preventative maintenance, right? Like, change the oil in your car. Like, so if you reverse engineer divorce, like most people, the marriage killer, the cheating or the gambling or the whatever, that's the symptom. Like, the problem is these little disconnections, One of the best stories I have is I had a client who I did her divorce, and we'd spent a lot of time together, because you do, when you're a divorce lawyer, you spend a lot of time with people and you get to know them very well. I mean, people will lie to their therapist. They won't lie to their divorce lawyer because A, there's no reason to, and B, I need to know everything, and it's all attorney-client privilege. And this woman, we were sitting outside the courtroom waiting on a break in testimony, and she was a young woman in her probably like late 30s, very attractive. And we were just chit-chatting, and I said to her, was there a moment when you realized the marriage is over? Was there a moment? And she said, yeah. And I said, when was it? And she said, there was this granola that I like. She said they only sold it at like this particular grocery store, and I like to put it in my yogurt. And she said he used to always, whenever I'd be running low on it, I would just open the thing one day and a new bag would be there. She's like, and she's like, it made me feel so loved. Like I didn't have to ask. He didn't want credit for it. Like he didn't go like, oh, did you see? I got your granola that you wanted. You know, like he just would do this thing, you know? And she said it was just something that like, it always made me smile. She said every time the granola was running low and there was a new bag of granola, I just felt very loved.
Fair use. Listen to this part.
One day the granola ran out. And I thought, oh, that's weird. You know, maybe he didn't see it. She's like, so I left the bag in there because I thought, well, at some point he'll notice. And he didn't notice. She goes, so I took the bag out and I waited and he didn't get a new bag. And I thought, okay, this thing's going down. And I thought to myself, wow, that's like, you know, that's such a small thing, like granola. Like you just, but these are the things. Like these are the little things that make us feel loved and that are gestures of love. And when I said to her, was there anything like that for you with him? And she said, yeah, blowjobs. And I almost spit out my coffee. And she goes, no. She goes, when we were first dating and even first married, she's like, I used to give him blowjobs a lot. She's like, you know, do it in the morning, took 2 minutes. And he was like super happy the rest of the day, you know? She's like, the rest of the day, he would like call me or text me and be like, oh, I'm so good this morning. You know, I had such pep in my step now. And she's like, it was just like, what did it really take out of my life to do that? You know, and it made him feel good. She's like, and then I got to a point where I was like, well, you know what? No, I'll wait. And then tonight we can have sex and we'll both enjoy that. Like, what is, I owe him a blowjob? Like, no, you know, like I don't owe him that, you know? And then she said, I got to a point where it was like, I look back and I'm like, yeah, I guess I didn't do that as often. Hardly ever really, you know?
Which came first?
So, as Mr. Sexton says right there, thank you very much for joining me in Talk Live on IG, YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. As Mr. Sexton so eloquently described, the devil's in the details on why marriages are failing. What was once considered compulsory behavior is taken away. And once that's taken away, then it becomes a race to the bottom. A bit of brinksmanship. I'll withhold this from you. You withhold that from me. I'll withhold this from you now. You withhold that from me now. And so on and so forth. And this bit of wiffle ball, this bit of tennis, verbal, cerebral tennis goes on. When to the point where if you had continued being a mother throughout this time, if you could continue to be a wife during this time, fit, feminine, friendly, cooperative, submissive, chances are you'll never, if you give your man sex sandwich salads, chances are he'll never want to stray because things are too good. The temptation will be there, let me say that, but things are too good. And that's where Mr. Sexton comes in as well. It's just, I mean, men are willing to die for their woman in order to provide for her. Women are very conditional lovers. Unless you provide for me, I will provide for you. And that's a problem. That plagued our family court systems for many years. Let's go.
You know, I said that to her, and she said, I couldn't tell you. She said, but I think it's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
And I do think it's the same thing. Yeah. And I'm not saying blowjobs and granola is all you need to know, but, and I'm not, by the way, I'm not saying that a blowjob is a small thing. I don't think I have any right to. I've never given one. But it seems like a phenomenal feat, and I'm grateful for everyone I've ever received. But I don't think it's a massive investment. Right? Just like buying someone's granola is not a mess.
But when you love somebody, you love doing things for them.
Right. Their pleasure
you love
pleases
making
you.
Their life better.
Their joy pleases you. Like their happiness makes you happy.
Exactly.
And somewhere along the line, and it happens a lot in marriage, it becomes, well, I'm not happy. Why should you be happy? you know? And then that creates a spiral. And I really believe that that spiral could go in the other direction. Like if he did the granola, I think the blowjobs would have come, you know? And if the blowjobs were there, I bet he'd have bought the granola. Like I can't prove that. There's no control group, you know? I can't run that research, but it feels to me like those little things, like leaving a note, you know, I've said to some of my friends, you know, when they say to me, like, you know, as a divorce lawyer, you know, you see all this misery, like, how do I stay out of your office? And I'll often say, I'm like, it's dumb little things, man. I'm like, just leave her a note. I'm like, leave her a note in the morning. Just leave a little note, says, hey, beautiful, you know, it was so fun watching that movie with you last night. So glad we got to have a date. I'll be thinking of you today. Love you. Like, what does that take? That takes like a minute, not even. Like, and look what it can do. Like, look at how that makes this person feel. And even if right away it doesn't work, on that moment it doesn't work. Okay, do it enough times. Like, and then you're either going to figure out that this person's gone, and then just fucking bail. You're done. Because if you try for long enough and you give like that, but if you're not giving like that, and then you're not getting back either, well, I'm not surprised. You know, that's how you end up in my office, is this death spiral of everyone like, well, I'm not giving buying the granola. She's not giving me blowjobs. Well, I'm not giving him blowjobs. He's mean to me. Okay, well, everybody's just has an equal right to be fucking miserable then.
Yeah, he's right. He's on a roll, this Mr. Sexton. The fact of the matter is, in any relationship, simply taking away the one thing that you used to do for your wife, some romantic gesture, can lead you down a road to nowhere. Lead you down a road you don't want to go down, which is straight to the family courthouse. I cannot stress that enough. It is what most men fear. Literally fear. They hate the fact that little things are taken away, like a blowjob or encouragement or a back rub or anything like that. Something that these creature comforts that men hold most dear. And that needs to change if we expect to get through these tough times anymore. There are solutions to be offered here a little later on, but at the end of the day, it's Mr. Sexton spot on. We need to really, really, really think about how the institution of marriage survives in the modern age. Because quite simply, you're seeing marriage rates plummet. You're seeing infidelity on the rise. The fact of the matter is, whose fault is that? I think it's both of ours, but we all have our share to blame, but we all need our collective hands, but we're going to have that a little later. Let's continue.
I think if you're happy with yourself, you're truly happy with who you are at that point in your life, or whatever the situation is, I think it's easier for you to be happy with your partner.
Yeah, but I would argue that if you're not happy with yourself, having someone happy with you is certainly not going to hurt your feeling of who you are, right? Like I don't need someone to tell me I'm handsome for me to have a nice day, but I can't think of anybody telling me I was handsome that it ruined my day. You know, most of the time you're like, oh, that's nice. You know, I got that going for me. So yeah, I think self-love, of course, is the most important love, and to be secure in who you are and to not allow your self-definition to be easily swayed or pulled. Like if you believe the good reviews, you got to believe the bad ones too. I get that. But I just don't think kindness, like it's just such an easy, like, especially if it's easy. Like it's easy stuff, like just telling someone that they're beautiful or handsome or that you're cheering for. It just, to me, with marriage or pair bonds, I shouldn't even say marriage, but the world is trying to kill you all the time. You know, like People are criticizing you all the time. You feel like a failure a lot of the time. If you compare yourself to other people, you'll constantly be, comparison's the thief of joy. So why not have like one person who's just cheering for you? Like constructive criticism is criticism. It's still just criticism. So if your spouse is just sitting around criticizing you and telling you all the things you could do to improve yourself, instead of just being a fan and just saying, you know what, I know who you are and you're beautiful. I know who you are and your heart is good. And betting on the best parts of a person, I think that there's very little downside to that. I think it would put guys like me out of business if people really leveraged that the right way.
I asked you earlier if you believe in love, but you said you do. Do you believe in marriage?
I mean, I believe people believe in marriage.
No, but do you?
Yeah. Do I believe in marriage? I don't.
It's the little things, guys. It's the idea that if we're in this together, we have to work on the small stuff. We got to work on the sweet science. Again, wind that back, that last part back again.
One that they're beautiful or handsome or that you're cheering for. It just, to me, with marriage or pair bonds, I shouldn't even say marriage, but the world is trying to kill you all the time. Like people are criticizing you all the time. You feel like a failure a lot of the time. If you compare yourself to other people, you'll constantly be, comparison's the thief of joy. So why not have like one person who's just cheering for you? Like constructive criticism is criticism. It's still just criticism. So if your spouse is just sitting around criticizing you and telling you all the things you could do to improve yourself, instead of just being a fan and just saying, you know what, I know who you are and you're beautiful. I know who you are and your heart is good. And betting on the best parts of a person, I think that there's very little downside to that.
He's right. Now I got it. It comes a point where in life we're getting torn apart, torn asunder, where all we're asking for is someone to cheer us on. Someone to be our guardian angel, someone to be our biggest fan. And once you have that, you can overcome most things, if not everything, including the divorce rate. You can overcome that. A lot of men will put up a lot of shit if they know their woman's in their corner and they have outward shows of love to prove it. There it is. You want a solution to divorce? Be your partner's biggest fan. Be your partner's biggest support reference. Be your partner's hero. That is the secret sauce to marriage. Do you do the small, sweet stuff, and can you support your husband? If you can do all those things and you can accept all flaws from your husband, then the marriage is long. But if not, then chances are she's going to move on. Wow, that's a bit interesting. But let's go.
I think it would put guys like me out of business if people really leveraged that the right way.
I asked you earlier if you believe in love, but you said you do. Do you believe in marriage?
I believe people believe in marriage.
No, but do you?
Yeah. Do I believe in marriage? I don't. I don't think it's a useful technology. I understand culturally why people do it, but I don't think people should need it. I know I certainly don't need marriage. I don't think marriage... I was married. I was married before I really ever thought about what does that mean. I married my college sweetheart. I got married because that's what you do. You get married, But I hadn't thought about it as a technology and why it's there. I didn't understand it the way I do now. There's a line from a Joseph Brodsky poem that he wrote when his wife died, where he says, "I wish I knew no astronomy when stars appear." And I feel that way as a divorce lawyer. Like, I wish I knew no astronomy when stars appear. I wish I didn't know what the end of so many marriages looks like, because I think I would have a more optimistic and unrealistic view of it. I would.
Yeah, but you'd be divorced and giving away half your.
I'd be foolish. Yeah, I'd be fool. I'd be as foolish. But I don't know that. I don't know that it's always good to know, right? Sometimes there's tremendous joy to be had, and like falling feels like flying for a little while, you know. So you hit the ground. Yeah. It feels really good.
But as I said earlier, now that the life expectancy of man is around the 80s or something.
Yeah.
Then it's like, so you're going to do this from your 20s or 30s until your 80s?
Well, marriage is a technology that was designed for when women died in childbirth and when men died in their 40s if they were lucky, 50s if they were super lucky. Like if you were in your 50s, your 60s, you were an elder. That was pretty amazing. And most women died in childbirth. Like childbirth is traumatic. It's a traumatic thing. And before modern medicine and before we understood antibiotics. So marriage is I don't think anyone ever planned that it was going to be, okay, we're going to do this forever. We're going to do this till we're till we're 100. But I think that's part of a bigger problem. I don't remember who said it, but I remember someone saying, I can't remember who it was, but we are prehistoric creatures, right? Like we are biological creatures living in medieval institutions like education, work, with godlike technology. How do you think that ends? Like you think that ends in happily ever after? Like that's insane. Like marriage was not designed. Think about even the early days of marriage. Think about every Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. Think about Oklahoma. Where you'd have there's the three people in town that aren't married. And you sort of pick which of the three, you were going to go be with. And now you have access to just an endless supply of the opposite sex, or I shouldn't even say the opposite sex. You have an endless supply of romantic partners in a device in your hand. How does that possibly stand up? How does marriage, the idea of monogamy, forced monogamy or enforced monogamy, how does that ever survive in that environment? I don't think it can. I don't think it's real.
Hey, he's right. Again, James is talking so much sense tonight. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. How indeed can a relic of an institution, a prehistoric institution of itself like marriage survive in the modern age where one's access to women is a point and click away. Marriage is very, very much decided upon within seconds and months. And it's considered a worldwide problem, really, that an institution, and he's right, an institution like marriage can't survive. And I mean can't survive being with all these technologies out there. Instagram, Facebook, all social media, YouTube. So you can't have as in our case, a successful marriage with all these temptations around you. You just can't. And they're all within your fingertips. All within, in certain circumstances, in certain degrees of separation or just within town. Before, to find the right women, you'd have to go in an isolated area to find them. Now it's a case of they're on speed dial, no matter what platform you use. It is, and it's trying its best to eliminate the institution of marriage as a sacrament this week. And I can't go because, again, I'm more Roman Catholic than ever. But again, modern technology is a killer when it comes to marriage because you can have you can have a word with Eddie Palmer. You could dial up an OnlyFans girl, pay her money to show her booty hole. You can walk into a strip joint and have a woman have her way with you for a cost. This is real life scenarios. And to those who are of the faint of heart, please, you can please exclude yourself. But we're about to get into the nitty gritty now. Just reading my notes here. And yeah, let's get into it. First hour over. Thank you very much for joining me at Talk Live. We're into hour number 2. So let me... oh, great. Okay, great. Yes. Still here, thank goodness. Okay. Still here on Talk Live. Let's get back to it. Thank you very much on YouTube. Let's continue with the venue. We have the live archive. There we go. Okay, so we're about to get back to YouTube now.
Hello, everyone.
There we go.
Hope you're enjoying your day on this lovely fall.
There we go. And just trying to put my live back on Instagram. There we go. That's better. Woo! Back live on Talk Live for the second hour here on IG and YouTube. Still speaking to James Sexton about marriage and how outdated an institution is and how to protect yourself within a marriage here. So he's giving advice on dating, love, dating, marriage, relationships, period. And we realize that with modern technology, marriage as an institution is on its last legs. Because there's always somebody new around the corner who could take over for the old. Even if you are old, that's exactly the case. And we always got to be mindful of that. The institutions of today make it hard for you to build, pair bond, start a marriage tomorrow. Now, let alone for if you have... It's crazy, yo. It's crazy. But let's get into it.
Realistic. The statistics prove me right. You know, the statistics are absolutely in my favor. Now, again, get married as many times as you want if you have a prenup. If you have a prenup, go get married. Getting married is a blast. Being married is difficult. You know, someone once said that it's great to be married sometimes. The problem is you're married all the time.
So you're a fan of prenups?
I'm a huge fan of prenups. I mean, I shouldn't be, because a prenup for a couple of $1,000s will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially in legal fees, if not millions.
Right.
So there are clients I have that have spent over $1 million just in their legal fees, that if they had spent $2,000 on a prenup, none of that. They'd still have that money in their pocket. And
there it is. What's the secret to any great relationship? What's the secret to a great marriage? Is to have LeBron on your side. Go figure. He's a heavy tide that raises all boats. And that's something to be commended about a guy who's nearly 40 years old. He's still running up and down the court, getting all these pictures as per usual. It's crazy. But back to the institution of marriage, it is, as they say, a troubling figure if with divorce rates as they are, because quite simply it's you can't change around certain things. Let's just go back for a little highlight there, because I love to hear what he had to say about that part.
to just an endless supply of the opposite sex, or I shouldn't even say the opposite sex. You have an endless supply of romantic partners in a device in your hand. How does that possibly stand up? How does marriage, the idea of monogamy, forced monogamy or enforced monogamy, how does that ever survive in that environment? I don't think it can. I don't think it's realistic. The statistics prove me right. You know, the statistics are absolutely in my favor. Now, again, get married as many times as you want if you have a prenup. If you have a prenup, go get married. Getting married is a blast. Being married is difficult. You know, someone once said that it's great to be married sometimes. The problem is you're married all the time.
So you're a fan of prenups?
I'm a huge fan of prenups. I mean, I shouldn't be, because a prenup for a couple of $1,000s will save you hundreds of thousands of dollars potentially in legal fees, if not millions. So there are clients I have that have spent over $1 million just in their legal fees, that if they had spent $2,000 on a prenup, none of that. They'd still have that money in their pocket. And
that is the key to any marriage going forward. Prenups. Less chance of the lesser known individual who is married, the breadwinner, of them leaving. Prenups. Prenuptial agreements are agreements between a man and a woman that if your name's on certain property, it goes to you. If your partner's name's on more property, it goes to her. And for joint property, it is shared amongst the both of you equally. It's straight down the line, no nonsense paper. That's the key to any sort of any sort of balanced relationship, is that you can have a chat about a prenuptial agreement. No man wants to lose his shirt, but it happens every day of every year. Men look past the prenup, think that love is blind, and that Cupid will strike you with your arrow, and off you go to Harrods, off you go to Arrowhead Stadium, where it just compounds the issue. We totally understand that this is a way that certain people want to. They want to completely disregard the prenuptial agreement as Dr. Dre did, as a lot of these TV stars do. But if it's written highly inflammable and hard to get to, chances are the institution has worked. So that's the real key. The real key is, can you have the uncomfortable talk, and it will be referred to as later, can you have the uncomfortable talk with your young superstar and say, hey, listen, we need to bring this guy in. I need to move this person out. You need to have a prenup. So therefore, what's yours is yours, what's mine is mine, and what we share can be split up right down the middle. And women will fight tooth and nail in order to have sole custody. So it's time for us men to be focused on that, in that a real happy marriage comes with a prenup and nothing less. Let's go.
That's incredible to me. Like, I have two sons who are adults, that they are absolutely going to have prenups. Like, they have to have prenups. They'd be fools to not have prenups. Yep. It's like jumping out of a plane with no parachute. Why would you do that? You know, it's stupid. Prenups are enforceable. They make sense. I actually think there's something very romantic about prenups, because they're forcing you to have a conversation about this relationship. Like, I genuinely believe that we are the most aware of our health just after we got sick, right? Like, if you wake up and you have a toothache, all you can think about is the fact your tooth hurts. And then your toothache goes away. And for like a week,
you're taking care of your teeth.
You go, oh my God, at least I don't have a toothache, you know? But then a month goes by, you don't wake up and go, well, at least I don't have a toothache. You know, it's the furthest thing from your mind. But theoretically, you could wake up today and go, I don't have a toothache, I don't have a backache, I don't have a head cold. Like, this is a great day.
What does a typical prenup look like?
The easiest prenup in the world. Easiest. Yours, mine, ours. That's it. Yours, mine, ours. If it's in your name, it's yours. If it's in my name, it's mine.
Like in a divorce, everything, all the assets are split 50-50.
Well, no. What you say in a prenuptial agreement is, if it's an asset or a liability, if it's in my name, it's mine. If it's in your name, it's yours. If it's in our joint names, we'll divide it 50-50. That's it. Yours, mine, ours. And then you have to have ongoing conversations throughout the marriage about, you know, hey, I got this bonus at work. Do I put it in my account? Do I put it in the joint account?
But if the husband owns a house that's worth, whatever, $2 million,
mm-hmm.
and he marries a woman,
mm-hmm.
the house is his still?
Well, they have to have a conversation.
That's an
Do I owe you a house?
That's an awkward conversation.
Okay. You know what's a more awkward conversation? A conversation 10 years later with a lawyer about the fact that you have to give half of this house away to someone. Isn't it better to have that conversation when you still like, why would you learn how to fight in a fight?
But won't that undermine the love that each person feels?
Why? You're going to die. Does that undermine your life? Or does it make you conscious of the fact that this is finite? And that you should be out there. Like, I think having a conversation with your partner about, look, I love you. You love me. We want to do this thing together. But the numbers are against us, and the world is antagonistic to it. And I hope we'll be together forever. But if we split up, what do we owe each other? What do you expect from me? Because I have to tell you something. I'm a fair person. I'm a fair person. If you say to me, you know, Jim, if I'm not going to work as hard because you make a good living. So if we split up, I'm going to need help for a couple of years because I'm not going to pay attention to my career. Okay, is that unreasonable? That's totally reasonable. You know, if I say, hey, listen, I have this house and I bought it, you know, but I'm buying it with money that I made really before we were together. So if we split up, I don't really think you deserve half of it. I think that if we bought things for it together, that, okay, those things you can half of, but the house itself, like that's money I had before I met you. And why can't you have that conversation? Why not? You instead, I mean, you buy a house, you do a...
Before it goes into the example, he's absolutely right. He's absolutely true. Why, oh why, can't you speak about certain unspeakable truths like love, like marriage, and what you end up after a divorce, and what you end up after a prenup? These are all things that need to be discussed before you get into a marriage without consequence, because everybody knows their role, everybody plays it, and realizes that they need each other more than they do apart. The secret of love library, love marriage is the fact that I love blank in there. I like blank. Or blank or blank or blank. Oh, we can read the clutch. We can drive clutch. Let's continue this.
A HUD-1, a lead paint disclosure. You got to sign all these things that this is how much the interest is going to be, and this is what you get married and get a fucking pamphlet. You don't get anything. You just did the most legally significant thing you're ever going to do other than die, and no one has explained any of it to you. People come into my office and they go, "Well, my retirement account, that's in my name," and I'm like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's in your name. Okay, was it acquired during the marriage? Okay, she's got half of it. Well, I have this bank account, but it's in my sole name. It's money that I inherited from my mom." I'm like, "Okay, and it's in your name. Yeah, but you inherited that money during the marriage. Yeah, and did you put money that you earned during the marriage in that account also? Yeah, okay, that's commingled and transmuted. That's now marital property." So they don't know that. Why? Because no one tells them that when they're getting married. All that you spend more time talking about the cake than you do talking about the fact that you just opted out of the title system. That's gigantic. You can't legally change the beneficiary of your life insurance, even to your children if you're married, without your spouse signing a consent to that. No one tells you that when you get married. Elvis can marry you for $20 at a drive-through cathedral. And it's a legal status, a massive legal... You buy your spouse a Rolex, you bought yourself one half of a Rolex. You buy someone a birthday present who you're married to, you bought yourself one half of that birthday present. Nobody knows. People don't know that. They learn that for the first time in my office or in a courtroom. That's insane. What other thing in the world, like anything else, any other contract, you would say, well, wait a minute, no one explained that to me. No one explained that to me. When I leased this car, no one explained to me that there's wear and tear. It doesn't say it anywhere in the contract, right? Okay, marriage contract doesn't say that. It doesn't say, oh, and by the way, you're opting out of the title system and your retirement assets and all these other things. And if there's any debts and you could have enhanced earning capacity or celebrity goodwill that has to be valued by forensic accountants that'll cost you $100,000. No contract that says that. It just says, yep, we're getting married. It's 2 witnesses. We're good. Like, what other contract in the United States or anywhere has that lack of disclosure and is that binding? None. Zero.
None. It is that fun. Is that
so? What a prenup?
Tremendous.
Yes, that's an awkward conversation. I guess. I don't know that it has to be. And I have to tell you, the more awkward of a conversation it is, the more you should think twice about getting married. Because if you can't have a conversation with this person about the possibility that someday one or both of you might hurt each other, like, how many people, while they're still happy and in love, say something like, you know, babe, I love you, but we're going to disagree about something at some point. And when we do, how do you like to fight? Like, do you need a minute? Like, do you need, like, to be alone for a minute so you can kind of calm down? Or are you the, like, hey, we got to figure this out, we can't go to bed angry? Like, because let's talk about that now while we're not in a fight. Like, let's talk about it now while we still get along and we're happy and we're trying to figure out how to navigate each other. It's hard enough to navigate yourself. I want to navigate another human being. Why don't we have that conversation now? But no, we don't. We learn on the job. We learn how to fight in a fight, which is insane, you know. But again, why? Well, because it's, you know, it's awkward. It'd be awkward to have that conversation. More awkward than getting in a fight where you don't know the rules of engagement, where you don't know how your partner does better or would feel better. Like, and you're not going to ask them that in the heat of battle, you know. So why wouldn't you have that awkward conversation while you have this abundance of affection for each other? I mean, when I negotiate prenups, it's the easiest thing in the world in a sense, because these two people really like each other. You know, they're about to get married. So they're clearly not trying to kill each other. At that point, they clearly like each other. So you just say, hey, listen, go home, talk to your fiance about X, Y, and Z, and see what they think. And tell them what your concern is. And very often people will come back and say to me, I mean, I have to tell you, I've been doing this now, you know, over 20 years. I do a lot of prenups. I do maybe 5-6 prenups a month. Sometimes during like pre-wedding season, which is the fall and before the summer, I'll do 10-15 a month. The people who say to me, oh, well, I don't want to have that conversation. You know, they get the prenup, and within 3-4 years, they're divorced. Sometimes 5 years, and then 7 years. But they're the ones who get divorced. They have no business getting married. Like the ones who have the discussion and figure out well, I'm worried because if you keep the place, yeah, you're right. Okay, so what if I give you this amount of money and it's this much for each year? Okay, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it that way. Those people, they'll probably never put the prenup in a safe someplace. You'll never look at it probably.
Good communication solves the problem.
Yeah, because they're able to talk to each other and they're able to talk about hard things. How are you going to be married to someone, have children with someone, and you can't talk about hard things, you know?
Yeah. That, my friends, it needs to be said that you need to have. I'm sorry, I was distracted there. It was a little bit of a technical issue that we finally got sorted out and Talk Live here on YouTube. The fact of the matter is, two things need to happen in order for a successful marriage to work. Number one is the prenup. Number two is the conversation about prenup. The hard, ugly truth about the prenup and the reason why you want cheat up. You have to sell it. Any man, woman who are involved in this sort of power structural relationship where the hegemony will go to, even though a good team, a third or fourth seed rather than giving it to LeBron, because LeBron's been on fire this weekend, let's face facts. But nonetheless, that is how you should be treating these sort of conditions. You need to have the hard truth. You need to have the hard chat. You really do. Guys, I need to get going here. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a part 2. We're going to continue the conversation on a follow-up broadcast probably tomorrow. We can probably get it in tomorrow, but we're going to stop it here for now. We're going to continue this tomorrow into part 2 as we've already hit the half-hour mark. And thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. Like, subscribe, comment, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. I will be back tomorrow with part 2. Stay with me. It'll be a special Friday edition, a very quick one at that, because I have a Christmas party tomorrow night. But tomorrow night, we will have it out. And if you talk, walk the walk. And we'll speak to you soon. Good night from Toronto. And back here on Talk Live on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining me. We're going to see if we have any comments here. We're good. And we are going to get out of here right now. Back to the full cam. There it is. And yeah, thank you very much for joining me at Talk Live. We're going to get back into it tomorrow night. A little earlier, but I'll let you know. And thank you very much for joining me. And look forward to speaking.